The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies to books, TV shows, and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in the Star Wars universe. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast app, or on the StarQuest YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X, where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And be sure to get your official Secrets of Star Wars gear at sqpn.com/merch. I'm your host, Patrick Mason, and joining me tonight on the panel is Kathryn Laffrey. Hey, Kathryn.
Hey, Patrick.
And Jeff Haecker. How's it going, Jeff?
Hey, Pat. How's it going?
Good. All right, we are talking about Andor, Season 2, Episode 6. What a festive evening. And I think to kick us off, I'm going to have Jeff read us the summary.
Yeah, so Cassian reports to Luthen that the Gormans are not ready to resist the occupation. However, Luthen sends Vel and Cinta anyway to assist in a heist of a Calkite shipment. Partagaz informs Lonnie and Hirt that the Navy wants to expand Dr. Gorst's interrogation program. Mon and Perrin attend Davos Golden's party, and they meet a familiar character with a new face, along with Krennic, Luthen, Clea, and Lonnie also in attendance. Cyril is observing the heist on Gorman, reporting to Dedra and Partagaz. At the party, Clea has to remove a bug from one of Skolden's artifacts, conscripting Lonnie's help. Mon faces down Director Krennic in an ethics debate, further driving Mon toward rebellion. Back on Gorman, the heist goes off, however Cinta is killed in an accident with a blaster. Finally, on Coruscant, Cassian and Bix confront her demons as they take out Dr. Gorst.
Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, Jeff, for the summary. All right, so this is the second episode, or sorry, not the second episode, the third episode in the second arc, culmination of the second arc. What did we think about this, Kathryn?
Yeah, it just keeps going. I don't know. I see a lot of the same stuff repeating over and over again. Quite honestly, Luthen irritates me more and more every time. I don't like the man.
Yeah. Well, and there was a lot of that in this episode.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying that. Basically. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I really like this episode. I mean, it's the finale of the arc, which those are always big, though not as big as, the next couple, I will say. But it's really setting up Gorman as a place that you may not want to be in a year from this in the storyline. It's really kind of, things are escalating quickly, both on Gorman and everywhere, because this is also kind of taking place around the same time as season 2, season 3 of Rebels. There's a little bit of kind of overlap starting that's happening there, so you can kind of imagine that the Empire's like cracking down everywhere, but especially on Gorman, because they want that Calkite, which I believe that's what they were hijacking the shipment of. I don't know that it was.
I think it was
clear
weapons.
Yeah, because those are coming in to help build the armory. The armory. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I thought it was Calkite because they were in these like long containers or something, but I mean, I guess hijacking weapons makes more sense because that's for your resistance. But anyway, yeah, this one was really good. It was a lot of, I mean, the party was intense. A lot. I like Luthen as a character in the sense that he's entertaining to watch, and I'm like, I want to know what he's going to do next, because he's kind of slowly descending into madness. Like, there's a lot of that going on in this with a lot of characters in this show. They're kind of slowly descending, and Luthen's kind of on that spiral too. And seeing how Clea's involved in that, and poor Lonnie getting dragged along the way with Clea in this episode. And you get to see we get to meet Bail Organa, played by a different actor, and and if you're kind of watching along with the podcast and not caught up yet, there is a reason they recast Bail. It's not just for a one-off appearance. So I think it's probably, if they couldn't get Jimmy Smits, I'm glad they went with a recast so that they could utilize the character more, because I think that they do a great job with him in the rest of the show. But yeah, and I mean, you see, and also you get Cyril kind of starting to question things of like, is the Empire really doing what the right thing here? And he's kind of getting in with the Gormans a little, not as much in this episode, but you kind of get the sense he's like, he doesn't want bad things to happen to them necessarily. So yeah, a lot of things going on, and this is really kind of the prologue to what we'll see in the rest of the season, especially with the next arc is probably the best, and or at least like one of the biggest things to happen in the show. So but this kind of sets that up. So yeah, it was a good episode, good kind of finale to the arc, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, I really liked this episode in particular because it was very much, from a lot of ways, pushback from a lot of characters to Luthen and how he was running things. The whole arc had been sort of revolving around people doing things on their own, and how poorly that has gone, and how poorly things went for Andor going to Gorman, right? The whole episode starts out with Andor getting picked up, and it's just this argument between him and Luthen about what's, are the Gore ready? Are they a front to go with? What's their position? And you see this, this sort of fracture happen between Andor and Luthen over Bix. You see there's a little bit of a fracture with Cinta and Vel, with Luthen, over their assignments. Clea has problems, with Luthen. And so there's just a lot of fractured relationships that kind of, in a lot of ways, they come back together in this episode. And then some of them still end up splitting apart. So to me, it was an interesting exploration of that and how that works in a rebellion. And it generally, I really love how this show does its culmination episodes. The last episode did a fantastic job of interplaying all the storylines in such a way that it kept you engaged constantly. You never got bored. And I love the way they did the second half of this episode. Once the party and the heist got started, it almost felt like it was the same event, like you were at both. And so I kudos to the directors and the editors for being able to put that all together such that it made sense and worked well. So
the opening music gave a good build up to what was going to happen in this episode. Yeah. There was definitely that drive and, a little almost suspense like, but not quite, but definitely just drive. You know that there's something big getting ready to happen.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I wouldn't say it was like action music, but it felt very action-y, action-packed, kind of like we're doing something's happening, kind of a music. Good deal. So jump into the arcs. We've got, effectively, from what I could parse together in my mind, at least, we've got 3 arcs in this show, or in this episode: the heist, the party, and Andor and Bix, which it's interesting. Andor and Bix kind of take up most of the front half of the episode, and then we don't see them again until the very end.
Little book ending.
Yeah. So which would y'all like to talk about first? Anyone that grabs your interest?
I feel like the heist and the party are the same thing, like you said.
Right.
One's in the shadows and one's in plain sight, kind of. So it's a neat parallel. I don't know how to separate them.
And not really even that much in the shadows, because the ISB knows exactly what's happening, and they're letting it happen. They're even saying, like, don't respond too fast. We want them to think they're getting away with it so that they can build up their confidence and, try to get more and more bold so they can use that as an excuse to crack down even more. So,
it's kind of sick. They're both working for the same goal.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Luthen wants it to be disastrous, and so does the ISB.
He has to use the tools of his enemy, as he says in season 1.
To use everyone he comes in contact with. That was the one thing that stuck out to me the most in this, was when he's all done having his issue with Andor and he's doing his little code talk with Clea.
Yes.
Is that how you say her name? Yeah. He keeps talking about, because he's a shop owner, so he keeps talking about the items and this item and that item. And it's like, that's it in a nutshell. He believes his own code talk. People are just items to be little pawns to be moved around like the Greek gods of old, playing games with people. You're a thing to me for my purpose that I envision in my mind, which is completely opposite of how people should be treated in the Catholic mindset. You should not be objectifying people.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a great, the whole argument between Andor and Luthen at the very beginning of the episode is over that. Like, Luthen, his point is, like, if we can get Gore to openly rebel, like, how much is that worth? Like I get it. Ferrix in Rebellion was worth so much because, but it's on the, Outer Rim and people know about it, but no big deal. But, like, if we can get Gore to rebel, then, like, how much more is that worth? And I love the words exchanged between Andor and Luthen, where Andor is like, this is not a good idea. And he's like, I'm thinking like a soldier. And Luthen is like, you need to think like a leader. And Andor is like, this is a party I don't want to stand out from. Like, what if it burns? What if it burns? And Luthen is like, well, it'll burn really bright then.
If it goes up in flames, then it will burn very brightly.
Very brightly. And then
he knows it's going to go up in flames. That's the sick part about it.
Yeah. Because Andor tells him, it's like they don't know how to fight. Like, this is a bunch of people who want to steal some guns who don't know how to fight.
Well, and he's got the intel from Lonnie. He knows it's going to burn. He's so happy to light the match on this one. It's creeps me out every time.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately his goal is he wants the Empire to be taken down, and he doesn't care how it happens. And we'll get some of his backstory, but we in the later episodes, but we don't get really the full backstory, like, because I kind of, I won't spoil anything, but some of my speculation in the past was kind of proved wrong in that. On kind of, does he have a friend or family or what that was killed, and so, but who are they, whatever. So, but we'll see what happens there in the next I think it's actually in episode 10, but. Yeah, he doesn't care. He wants it all. He wants the Empire torn down, and it's kind of a problem that we see in both in this show, in Rogue One, and even in like the later series like Ahsoka and Mandalorian. Like, they want to destroy the Empire, but they don't really have a good plan for what's next. Like, we start to see that the rebellion is their committees, and they're trying to figure. We go by votes and not necessarily what you probably should do if you want to actually survive and win. And then that model had kind of failed in the Old Republic, and we kind of see it, like, we see the seeds of it kind of already failing in here, with just kind of no one has Mon is the leader in a lot of ways of the rebellion. She's kind of becoming the figurehead, but she doesn't have ultimate power like Palpatine. And that, while you don't want someone in ultimate power, that does become a problem when, you're trying to appease however many worlds and you lose, your strong military and all that. So at least to me, it was interesting kind of seeing how they planted those seeds here that'll pay off in even the later shows and even in the sequel movies.
Yeah. I think, for me, I think the best display of it is when Mon asks Luthen, I haven't heard from my cousin in a while. And he, basically says, she's on a mission. Is there something important you need to tell her? And Ma just says, I care about my cousin. Like I care about her as a person. Like it's not a mission thing. I want to know she's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think so much of this show is showing the difference between Luthen and Mon Mothma, and like who they are and what they mean to the rebellion, and in a little way Saw Gerrera too. Like it's giving you like 3 different options about how you could structure a rebellion or how you could do things, and showing you the problems and pitfalls of, well, at least 2 of them. I mean, Saw Gerrera's pitfalls are really easy to see.
And that
Go sniff some gasoline, Saw.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little nuts.
Well, it's funny too because he's kind of crazy now, but then by the time you see him there's an episode of Rebels where he goes to Geonosis that happens at some point after this arc, and he's and it's kind of before I think the next arc happens, and he's not like crazy and like seeming like he's huffing Rito. So I don't know if he got clean for a little bit on that, and then he went back to it later, because I think Tony Gilroy has confirmed that in Rogue One, when you see him take the breath mask off his suit, like he's not breathing oxygen. He's got Rito built right into his suit so he can have it whenever he wants. So.
Oh man, I didn't realize that. I think
it's been confirmed after this show has come out. Like I guess retconning it, because I always thought it was like his lungs are messed up, and I mean I guess they are because he's been huffing Rito. So
yeah,
but I guess Tony Gilroy has confirmed that he's not just breathing. He's not using that for oxygen. He's using it for his addiction there.
Mainlined the addictive substance into his lungs.
Super vaping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about drug addiction. Might as well just talk about Bix now.
Yeah.
Because she was messed up in the beginning, and then, and it's funny because I can't tell if Cassian's aware of her drug issue use, or if he just kind of thinks he can fix it with whatever he's trying to do. I don't know. It just kind of was an odd moment when she's awake in the middle of the night and doing her drops and chirping out on the Cassian light. the great bat light.
Yeah, I mean, he's been away, so like it's probably one of those things. Like he may know that she's having struggles, but doesn't know like the full depth of that. That she's actively treating herself with whatever the drops are. Because they both use Pizzos, which are like a illegal stimulant in Star Wars, apparently. Because they've talked about Pizzos since season 1, and I didn't know what they were, and I guess they're kind of like a nicotine, like chewable type of thing for a stimulant or something, is what they're kind of described as. But these definitely seem like they're beyond that. So, and she's trying to like not be stimulated and wants to kind of, be mellowed out, but not think about the things that have happened to her, both from Gorst and from the Imperial in the first arc.
Yeah, and you can see she's hiding it, right? So she has that little bag that's on the top of the, over the kitchen, over on top of the counter. And it's interesting, you see what she does with it in the previous episode. She's taking it and watching, trash TV, just kind of laying around with it. And I thought that was a really interesting piece of advice Luthen just drops. And it's, the dreams, it keeps them away from a while, but eventually the nightmares get worse. And you can tell, like, because when Andor comes home, the place is like clean and it's nice and there's flowers and there's just really like, I don't know. If you ever come home after a really long trip and like the house is clean and the kids are all there to greet you and your wife hugs you, like there's a certain like feeling that comes with, and I thought they captured that really well in that scene.
That's so funny how you said that. Because you flip that around for the ladies. Most of us, when we're gone for a long time, come back to, oh my word, what happened?
Yeah, everything's burning down. Pot's boiling over.
Yeah, or when you're traveling with your wife and kids, and you're like, you don't have time to clean up beforehand. You're just like, we gotta go. Like, these kids are dragging their feet with getting in the car. Like, we don't have time to. You come back and it's a mess because you never had a chance to clean it up before. At least that's more my experience.
Half-folded laundry.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was hard for me to see that she had cleaned up the place because it's always so dark, and it's just like, oh my gosh, turn a light on. I couldn't tell it looked any better.
Yeah, I almost feel like they don't have lights in there. It's all supposed to be naturally lit through the window.
It's like just living in the shadows.
Yeah. But yeah, it's apparent she's trying to hide it from him. But it also, like, it sort of rolls into Andor going to see Luthen at the shop, which was like, I don't know, it's like watching any secret agent or spy movie or whatever. You're just like screaming at the TV, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna give it all away.
I was screaming something completely different. I was like, does he sleep in that wig? He comes out in the wig and I'm like, is he sleeping in that thing? I mean, really?
Well, and it's funny how quickly Luthen is coming up with the cover story of why Cassian's there. Like, because in case anybody has observed and asked, like, he's like, you brought me this artifact, I paid you, I appreciated it, whatever. Just, he's covering that, like, he's coming up with that so quickly because he's such a manipulating liar that he can come up with that off the top of his head. Because I don't think we touched on it really, but Luthen had come to see Bix in the apartment and kind of is starting to like suss out, can I use her for something? Like, is she ready to do emissions, or is she ready to do, can I use her in any way? So, and Cassian's going there to, tell him off for that because, he in his mind, I think Cassian is thinking he's the one that's taking the risk. Like, Bix, I want Bix to be safe and, stay home and not have to do these missions and not have to do this. And I think by the end of it, we kind of see that really they should be more partners in this rebellion thing. And I think we do see that by the end, and then in the next arc as well, like that partnership has kind of grown a little bit more, and Bix has a place in the rebellion, and she's not just sitting at home or hiding out on Mina Rao or wherever. Like, she can be of assistance and can actually help. But Luthen's kind of going about it the wrong way, because she probably would like to do something and not just be stuck at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead, Kathryn.
Just right now, it's like you have Cassian being possessive, overly protective, and Luthen still using. Well, he uses everybody. So I think knowing what she has just gone through and experienced, she's got to feel this isn't a good relationship, her and Luthen also, because it's following the same pattern of what she just went through. This is a man who's abusing this woman for his own gain. So it kind of puts her in a terrible situation. She wants to get out of the situation she's in. She's trying to change Cassian into something he's not ready for. And she feels like she can't escape Luthen. She's stuck in that house. I think that's, what freaks her out the most. She's in like a no-win situation right now.
Yeah, because they also had done the mission that was kind of off screen between the first arc and this arc of they went and they had to kill an Imperial officer on some kind of mission we don't really know. Like when she's having that kind of nightmare hallucination with Dr. Gorst in episode 4. So she's already done some kinds of missions already, but we can see that it's, like you said, it's affecting her, and the nightmares aren't going away. They're probably gonna get worse if she, like, people just need to prioritize their mental health in Star Wars, and they never do.
Right?
Yeah, Yeah. Well, and I like what Andor says. He says, we're not droids, Luthen. Like, we can't just like go where you want us and do what you want all the time. But I do like that Luthen throws it back in Andor's face. It's like, are you either all in or are you here to protect Bix? Like, I need to know. Like, I need to know one way or the other.
So kill me or take me in, and I took you in. You're here.
I took you in. Yeah, you're here. Yeah. So I do think it brings to a head in sort of Andor's mind. Like, it always feels like he's trying to get back to that place where he is somewhere nice and comfortable, and has enough money and is just can be happy and free. And, what we've seen building in Bix and what we see go through with Bix is not that. She honestly seems more committed to the rebellion than he does, especially what we get in the next arc. But like, she, because of her abuse at the hands of the Empire, she's willing to go along with Luthen, even though I think she realizes she is being used by him. And
she's becoming more and more like him.
Right.
That's what's scary for her. She's becoming more and more like Luthen. I don't think she's into the rebellion as much as she wants to win.
Yeah.
She wants the Empire gone. It's not about necessarily the Empire right now for her. I think it will be in the end, but not right, the rebellion, not right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if you were to switch Andor and Bix's places and you'd sent Bix off to Gorman, she probably would have been more positive about them, going into rebellion than Andor was. Because I think Andor is always going to be on the cautious side because he's trying to protect, now it's Bix, but he was trying to protect people before. But yeah, I love how it ends, and Andor's just like, you're gonna fix this. Like, he just tells Luthen, you're going to fix this. and honestly, to Luthen's credit, I think he does a good job. Like, I think he actually takes Andor at face value and does what he needs to do. Strangely enough. I don't know if we want to jump to the end of the episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
either that or jump to the parties.
Yeah.
Well, if we want to finish that part real quick, I think it's pretty, I mean, I don't think it's that much of a spoiler to say, like, in the next arc, Andor's not with Luthen. And I mean, that's right at the beginning, so I don't, you'll see that very quickly. But so, I mean, I think this is kind of like the final break with Luthen, or at least, the final break for now. Like, he's realized he doesn't want to, he's either, seeing that Bix is becoming like Luthen, or seeing that he has different idea, that Cassian has different ideas, or different, he has a different desire for what his rebellion will look like. Because he had contact with the Nimic, who is the guy who wrote the manifesto. So, like, he's seen kind of all types of rebels. Like, he's seen the idealistic ones, he's seen the ones in it for the money, like I think it was Skeen, and he's seen, he's seen, Luthen. So he's seen kind of all sides, and he's seen, I don't think he's seen Saw Gerrera yet, actually. So he probably doesn't know him, but he's seen Luthen at least, and knows kind of his, like, he can kind of choose to be, one of these kinds of rebels, and he's not choosing to be Luthen anymore, or follow Luthen anymore.
Right. So, the fix is sending him and Bix, Andor and Bix off to take care of this Dr. Gorse problem. And we see in an earlier scene with the ISB, there's an assignment given out to turn Dr. Gorse into a whole program for the Empire. And the Navy has set up a whole, wing of offices to house it. And yeah, like, the shiver is the correct answer to that. Terrifying. I love the one ISB guy. He's like, it'll be an honor. And Pendergast is like, it's an assignment. Calibrate your enthusiasm.
Yes. That was a very good line for what was just talked about. Yeah. Like, an honor? He has no idea what that Gorse guy does.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here I think it was Hirt who was the one who said that, and he's kind of been a little bit of a suck up character throughout the show. He was kind of Dedra's assistant, or kind of sucking up to Dedra, and then now has taken over Dedra's assignments while she's doing Gorman. So I think he's like, he wants to kind of get his own place. He wants to strengthen his place in the ISB too. So he's like, ooh, he's the one like, ooh, yes, boss, I'll do this. I'll work overtime. I'll take that shift just because he wants to get promoted and rise in the ranks. And Lonnie's just there like along for the ride.
Well, Lonnie played into it too really well, because he's able to take all this information and then tell, what's the other guy's name in this? The suck up. Yeah, he's able to tell him, you take the lead on this. I'll let you have that. And that also takes any attention off of Lonnie, who's now going to give the information on to Luthen, who will give it on to Bix.
So what did we think about what they end up doing with Dr. Gorst? I mean, I know from like a visceral perspective, it's like, yeah, this guy got his comeuppance. But like from I don't know, what did you guys think about it?
I mean, Bix knows what it does to you, and she seemed to slightly take pleasure in doing it to someone else. It's kind of, I don't know. It was a weird moment for Bix as a character to do what she did. I mean, I guess they, in the end, put him out of his misery by blowing the whole place up, I guess.
Well, I think that was more to cover their tracks than anything, not to put him out of his misery.
And for some reason, they forgot Cassian's line several episodes ago when they went to the store. Bix, there's cameras everywhere. Okay, let's go into the super secret project area and show our faces, because no, there's no cameras there. Not in the room where they watch people get tortured.
Well, he wore his hood. He was fine.
I gotta admit, that has killed me this entire season. Like even some of last season, I'm just like, how are you people walking around with your faces in full display? Like, I don't get it. Like, I just and they even bring it up, like Cassie even said, there's cameras everywhere, and I'm like, no, there's not. Like, obviously, no, there's not, because otherwise you guys would all be in jail long ago. Like, yeah. Sorry. Random tangent rant there.
Minor plot issue. We're over it now.
Okay. All right. I get it. You want to show everybody's faces. It's fine. Okay. All right. Moving on. So I think there is a real problem from a moral perspective for what they did with Gorst. Like, I get it from a, haha, you get to get tortured in the same way you tortured other people. But it's never good. I don't know if good's a strong enough word, but it's never a good thing to simply visit an evil on someone because they visited on you. And so that is, I think, problematic. I think less problematic is the bombing. But I did actually want to explore that a little with you guys. What you thought about that? Like, if let's say you're an underground insurgent, inside of an overbearing, oppressive government that's going to come out with this new torture program that they're going to put out. And I mean, what are, like, in your mind, what are the ways to stop them from doing that are like okay from a moral perspective?
Erase all the tapes with that horrible sound on it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
destroy all the equipment.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Star Wars universe is not it's not the real universe, the Catholic universe that has moral theology. There's you have morality, but it's in the Force and in other kind of philosophies in that universe. But I don't think anyone's like, people aren't worried about their afterlife really, or I think most people aren't really worried about their afterlife. And like, what's something like visiting, a torture upon somebody will do. They're just, most people probably think that you just have the one life and that's it. Like, you just have to make the best of it, and when you're gone, you're gone. So, I mean, unlike our faith and morality, where your actions have consequences in this life and the next. So, and I don't know. Yeah, as far as ways to get around it, I mean, it's really hard to say, because, like, I mean, you ideally would work within the system to elect, representatives that would stop this, but the system in this show is broken. The empire is broken, and elections, really the Senate at this point is just a figure to let people think they have a voice, and to let them think that, they have some control over their lives. But really, it's the imperial machine is controlling everything. And we even see that with, I think you have a quote in here, Pat, about the oath that the Senate is having to take, or that, like, I think that the senators are being kind of forced to give, to show that they're, loyal to the empire. So
yeah, because you have these 80 new senators, right, who are being invested in the Senate investiture. And that, I think that's a big part of the background of this arc, is showing the utter ineffectiveness of the Senate. And we don't, we primarily see it at the very first episode, where Mon is trying to politic, and she is just falling flat on her face. And all she's trying to do is pull back whatever, intolerable acts were passed after the Ferrex Rebellion. Like, that's all she wants. Like, just pull back a little bit, fewer death labor camps, less, fewer 6-year sentences for getting picked off the street because you looked funny, and, without a judge and jury kind of a thing. And she can't get any headway. Like, she can't get anywhere with it. And then we see kind of like what the Senate really means, and it's sort of this showpiece, right? It's just this big, do you want to talk political parties? No, I want to talk parties,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very similar to the Old Republic. Oh, sorry.
No, the oath sequence really kind of pointed out. I mean, you got to feel like, how many of these new senators are just kind of in place because they're incapable of doing anything. And, like, even Mon's husband was pointing it out when they were flying over. Who has initiation, parties like this? You guys never did that. It's like, you had to be in the Senate for a couple years before you had one of these parties. So it was interesting to see how, they're just playing the game. Hey, I'm here. I can have a party.
Yeah.
It's very like Hunger Games, where you have the Capitol, like, throwing these lavish parties to kind of distract everybody from what's going on. And I mean, but it also, this kind of thing has its roots in the Old Republic. Like, if you've seen, even the prequel movies, but then you see a lot more in the Clone Wars show, a lot of, like, Senate stuff. And they're just like, well, we have to take this to the committee, and we have to take this to the subcommittee, who has to go to their subcommittee. And you have to, it just takes, like, the Senate has just kind of increasingly become ineffective. And even in the High Republic books, which the Acolyte was the tail end of that, like, in the books that are hundreds of years before what's going on now, there's, like, the Senate is still kind of starting to go that way. And, you kind of get the sense this is all part of the plan of the Sith, who want to eventually, like, reinstate their total control. So they're kind of, even if they don't explicitly say it, I think my headcanon is, like, the Sith is kind of manipulating all of these events to lead to, like, the Senate basically becoming useless. And then people want a strong empire. They want a government that will protect them. And especially the Clone Wars, which were an entire manipulation. Like, they don't want another war, so they're willing to, sign their freedoms and liberties away for that. And, like Padme says it, liberty dies with thunderous applause. So yeah, I think it's a lot of, like, pomp and circumstance to try to, like, keep people's minds off of, what's really going on with, like, Gorman and, other places. Because, like I said, Lothal, their whole crackdown is happening. It's happening everywhere. I can't remember what Andor episode was, but there was something in Andor where in one episode of this season or the last, where they were saying, like, it's happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, like,
it was in the first arc. Yeah, okay. It was Brosno talking to one of the fire. He was like, you got to tell people what's happening here. And he's just like, it's happening everywhere.
Right. Yeah. So, like, the people on the outer ring who aren't on Coruscant know what's going on, but, like, Coruscant, they're, like, keeping it distracted, because these are the people who can theoretically control their planets through the Senate or whatever. So
yeah, did we want to read the oath?
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Yeah, you go for it, Jeff.
Oh, I can. All right. So the oath of the Empire, and I'm not swearing this oath for anyone listening. This is not an oath I'm swearing. I'm acting. All right. Upon my life and honor, for the peace and bounty of all beings, my full allegiance, a galaxy of worlds, a galaxy assembled, an empire.
I really like how that's portrayed in the episode. I because you see it primarily from Mon Mothma's perspective, and at the beginning she's mouthing the words, like she's remembering giving this oath, however many years ago, how long she's been a senator, which that's another problem with senates. But so upon so she's mouthing the words until they get to like the full allegiance part, and then you can see her face kind of twitches, and you go between her and the oath giver, which I guess is an official position. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I wouldn't want to work for the Empire, but if I had to have a job,
you want to be the cheerleader?
Yeah, the guy who gets to speak grandiosely.
All I know is one word stuck out to me, and it was allegiance, because of the Thrawn book. Allegiance.
Oh, okay. Allegiance. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. And of course, that got me when they said they're going to a party. I was like, yes, I could get a little cameo. That'd be awesome. And some of my good scene, good stuff in the books where you have things happening at parties on Coruscant. You've got Governor Price finagling things. You've got Thrawn. You've got who's in charge of Thrawn? The big ISB guy.
Oh yeah. I forget his name too. But...
Oh my goodness! Come on, Patrick, help us out here.
I haven't read the book. I apologize.
He was in Clone Wars. He was like the big leader of
Yularen.
That's
Yularen.
it. Yes, he was the one who was always like guiding Thrawn along, trying to keep him out of trouble. And that's all I needed was at the start of the party. Yes, we got the cameo shot with Bale, but just Yularen and Thrawn walking by would have made my day. And then I would have been okay. I'll watch more Andor happily.
I was really wondering how Kathryn was going to slip in some Thrawn fangirling on this episode, but I knew she would do it. I'm so proud.
He's over my shoulder in this one. My little bobblehead Thrawn's like, I want to be at the party.
I mean, the whole show, I've been hoping Thrawn would show up because I was like, man, Thrawn needs to show up and have like a showdown with Luthen because they both love art and they.
Thank you, Jeff.
That would have been.
Oh yeah, that is a really missed opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense because that would have just like everybody would have been talking about Thrawn and no one would have been talking about Andor. Anything happening in Andor because they'd just be like
melted the internet.
Jeff and I would have been so happy.
I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen, but I had, I was like, Thrawn, he could show up here, but he's, I guess he's busy out at this point dealing with or getting ready to deal with the Ghost crew. So,
yeah.
Now instead we get a new Senator Organa. I can no longer say Senator Jimmy Smits Organa. I just have to say Bale. I am pleased with the actor they chose to replace Jimmy Smits. I am sad though that we're losing him. And from what I could tell, it was just scheduling problems, right? He's too busy.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I never really looked into it. And also, I mean, this is 10 years after, or like in real life, this is almost. Well, I guess it would have been filmed, but this is almost 10 years after Rogue One, which was 10 years after the prequels. So, I mean, Jimmy doesn't look the same as he looks. I'm not saying he doesn't look good, but he's definitely aged. And if you're trying to if you want him in a bigger role, like they might have had the makeup and whatnot could have looked kind of funky. So, but I mean, I don't think that was the reason, but
Yeah, the last show he was in was Obi-Wan, and that was only what, 2-3 years ago. So yeah, that would have been a lot of aging. Because at this point, Leia is a senator, right?
Yeah, she's in the show right now, or like in the timeline, she would be like a junior senator from Alderaan. Like I think it means like when Bail is not actually in the Senate, like Leia's would represent him. And there's also, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, in the storyline, there's like a junior Senate that does things that I don't really know exactly what they do, but like they're kind of like your model UN type of thing, I guess, like senators in training for. And then, but I think she also like would represent Bail if he was absent from the Senate, like he was her proxy. So
yeah,
or she was his proxy.
So we get, he bows out of the party, but we get, Mon Mothma, her husband Perrin, and surprise Krennic, as well as several other ISB officers, and then Luthen and Clea. And it's like, it's interesting to me, or I really loved how they did it, because you have kind of the leaders of all of the stuff that's going on out there between the rebellion and the ISB in a single room together, talking about art, and then the heist going on on Gorman, which both sides know about like full detail and are watching in the background. And so you have this verbal spar happening between Mon and Krennic, which I'm probably going to watch. I might just pare the episode down and watch that several times over, because that was a lot of fun to watch. And then at the same time, you've got the actual heist going on, in the physical action. So I really love this. The last 20 minutes of the show are fantastic.
Yeah, and Clea is doing a heist of her own, because I don't know if Luthen and Clea would have attended the party, but they had to go because one of there was a chance of a listening device implanted in Skolden's artifacts being discovered, or I guess they were being like, I can't remember if they said they were being moved or something. But
she was having the artifact reevaluated because they questioned its authenticity.
Fake.
Yeah, they found the fake.
Fake.
Yeah,
and they would have found this bug. So they go there to try to remove that bug, and poor Lonnie gets hopefully his wife doesn't see a picture of Clea all over him.
I love how scared he looks the whole time. The actor did a great job of that.
Yeah,
and how well Clea, she has that same thing. The actress that plays Clea, the ability to in and out of character the same way Skarsgård can do Luthen, going in and out of character.
And shout out to her. This was the actress. It was her first acting job in a major thing outside of acting school and independent stuff. This was her first. Andor was her first job, and she's been in stuff since. But she was definitely one of the standouts of the series for me.
Yeah, she did good.
Yeah, she has to get poor Lonnie to try to go get this bug.
Yeah, it was good tension with everything that was happening, and getting him to move and smile at the same time. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it's again, would have been an art moment. Come on. But it was awesome. And it was neat the way that they were talking about that particular piece of art and how it was meant to be tactile. You can see it almost would look like if you super magnified an old LP and you're dragging your hand along it. And of course, Krennic uses that great line about, people being blind to what's really going on. So.
Yeah. Was it from a planet where blindness was believed to be a gift? And he's like, well, I know some people. We think that's true.
Yeah, there were definitely some great jabs going back and forth between him and Mon. To the point of him calling her out as, the leader of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
I just felt bad for everyone standing there watching, because you're just uncomfortable. Parents just there, you have a couple other random people, and then Luthen. I think Luthen was in that room, and Skolden. So everyone's just Awkward.
Yeah. I generally feel bad for Golden's wife.
For who?
Golden's wife. I just feel like she gets dragged along on all this stuff, and she's probably
that's their outlaws or the in-laws, right?
Yeah,
they are, and they did mention. I think it's the only mention in the rest of the show of, or I shouldn't have said, but anyway, they mentioned Lita and Stecken that they were. They give a brief reference there. So, well,
did anyone else catch the wife who gets dragged along happening to hook up with the husband who seems to get dragged along?
Well,
in the party, Mon's husband kind of grabs a hold of the other one. Oh, we got to go somewhere. There were a lot of hookups happening at that party. It was kind of, crazy stuff going on at those Imperial parties. I mean, that's why, Lonnie could walk away with Clea. Everybody's hooking up at the Imperial parties,
They call that
Star Wars has gotten smutty and druggy. Oh, fast.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Damn it. Yeah. Yeah. So now I love when they're talking about, there was some battle that comes up and Mon talks about, well, it wasn't much of a battle. It was more of like a killing. And Krennic is like, well, you know how these people talk, nobody wants to die for a bad cause or to prove out that they were terrible in battle. They want to make themselves look better. And then they start arguing over language. And the final word he says is like, oh, so you mean like my rebel is your terrorist? It's just such a good.
Yeah.
Such foreshadowing with Gorman, with what's happening there and what will happen there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had forgotten, but the way that whole introduction starts, Mon is like, oh, it's so good to see you, outside of the, the Senate hearing
witness
chamber.
Stand?
Yeah, the witness stand.
The witness stand. It's like, oh, okay.
Just like, what a festive evening, or what a school party. This is one of those.
Some bad blood going between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all this lovely bright partiness, and it's paralleled with the dark heist. I love that visual, how it kept going light, dark, light, dark. That's cool.
Yeah, and I like so this heist, it's happening on Gorman. It's primarily the Gore, but Vel and Cinta are sent there to sort of lead the whole thing and do it, which is an interesting strategy, I think, from Luthen's perspective, because he sends Andor there to sort of assess them. And by the time Andor's back, Vel is already there. So, he's made his decision even before Andor's come back. And I think in a lot of ways, the Andor's mission was more about Andor and Bix than it was about Gorman. Vel and Cinta's lead up to that, there's an interesting, and it's come up several times, but it's a back and forth, and I think it's Vel and one of the Gorman, but she gets asked visiting friends, and she says, "Why do you ask?" And he says, "I'm curious by nature." And then she says, "I have friends everywhere."
Friends everywhere.
Yeah, and that's the name of the last episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought about it, but you really hear it almost every other episode. It's just the code word for, yeah, I'm with the rebellion, effectively.
Or with Luthen. I don't know if that's rebellion or Luthen, which I think if it's Luthen's code talk, then I can understand why the Gore would accept these two women basically bossing them around, when before they were a little more cautious with Cyril, a little more cautious with Cassian even. I just feel like, they just were like, oh, okay, we'll do whatever you say, kinda. But it was interesting.
I think too, with Andor was there as an observer, and he, he was had his cover identity of Varying Sky. It was as a fabric purchaser or whatever he was. He was there to observe.
He was pretty.
He's like,
I was very
but Luthen sends Vel and Cinta there to do the job. So like when they arrive, I think they realize, okay, they're like, Luthen has faith in us to, to do this heist or to start this, this first act of resistance or whatever. So
to pick a fight. Yeah.
Right.
There was one visual in this that I did not like. There's nothing more insulting to a viewer than an obvious visual. And it was when Val and Cinta first sit down together at the restaurant. And the window they're sitting in is like a little like oval yin yang kind of symbol. It's like, I get it. They're very different people. That was clear the first time we met them. We don't need the obvious, put them in the little yin yang symbol. I was just like, oh, let's just hit a brick over everybody's head. I don't know. That's how I take it anyway. I'm a visual person. I was like, come on. Let's not be so obvious with our symbolism, folks.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that, so.
Okay, sorry.
I have to admit, I missed it too, which I'm a little ashamed of myself now.
Well, sorry.
No, it's good. Well,
if you want to hear another good visual,
yeah,
when they go to the party, all I wanted to do was sit down with a nice plate of Valencian salted shrimp because I ate a beautiful restaurant that's right under that entry area at the Opera House. Oh. It's the real Opera House. That's why they had operatic music playing. But yes, I mean, right away, I'm like, oh, Valencia, let's go. I'm sorry, Coruscant and Valencia are just the same place now.
Nice. Good to know. To book my trip soon to Coruscant.
Coruscant, yes.
No, I think, for me, what came out of that talk was primarily, there's a lot of interplay there, relationship interplay, which we could discuss. But, from a story perspective, I think the really important thing came out was that Vel wasn't going to do the job unless Cinta was there. And that was an ultimatum she gave to Luthen, right? And it's not, I can't remember how it happened sequence-wise, but we also have the ultimatum coming from Andor to Luthen at the same time. And so we have these, in the previous episode, Luthen sort of, we've lost control. There's too much out there. We don't have enough. We don't have our hands on this. And now he's getting to the point where he's losing control even of his operatives because he's treating them like droids, right? Like items. And so, what he does with Andor and Bix, and then what he does with Cinta and Vel, and you can see how it works out with Andor and Bix, but ends up not working out with Cinta and Vel. And I think that's interesting. It's an interesting sort of, well, be careful what you wish for kind of a thing. Like there's sometimes a reason we keep people separate because in situations like this, it can go poorly.
Yeah, and having Cinta talk about the accident, it's like, oh, something bad's going to happen as soon as she brought that up.
Oh, and I was wondering. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you could just kind of tell every time they were talking, it was just getting worse and worse. The whole situation between them felt like it was building up to destruction.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I wonder if the accident was actually the one where she killed Tay Kolma in the first arc. Like, did she have to crash the speeder or something to make it look like an accident? Like, she actually got hurt in that. So, I don't know. I kind of had that in the back of my mind, too. And she also had to die because
that would have been
had to go over to Doctor Who now. So,
yeah, and that would have been a year prior, right? So, yeah, the timing on that would probably work because she basically said she was out for a year almost, or something like it. It gave me the feel like it was a year. Not that the concept of a year makes a lot of sense in a galactic civilization, but
I'm just glad she didn't come back with robot parts.
Right. That's right.
I mean, maybe she had a robot limb or two we just didn't see.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's something it's another thing that comes up between them. They mention to each other we're worth more to him being Luthen separately than we are together. And I really like this episode because it showcases that that's just not true. Like Andor and Bix working together are better. Unfortunately, what happens with Cinta and Vel is bad, but like the heist pulls off. Like there's one hitch, unfortunately. And for a heist, that's pretty good. like normally
follow the plan.
Yeah.
No, but the heist is a trap.
Yeah.
It's all a trap.
But they want it, yeah. I mean, the ISB wants it to succeed and go through. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Cyril. Told you before, fellas.
Yeah, he's in his own trap there.
Yep. He's just the ugly puppy to Deidre.
Yep.
I mean, I think I do think y'all were talking last week, Pat. I do think that they're trying to have a relationship, but they're both so messed up. Like they're both messed up as people and don't really know what a real relationship looks like because of Cyril's upbringing by his mom, Edie Karn, and then Dedrick coming up in the Kinderblock. Like they probably don't know what a real a good relationship is. So I think they're trying, but it's just coming across as
yeah. It's like I don't know. It reminds me of so many of the dystopian movies and shows where and books where people have relationships, but they don't really know how relationships work because they live in a dystopian universe. So that's what their whole relationship reminds me of. But yeah, so we're on the ground with the heist, and I think it's interesting that we have the two Gormans who speak out during the meeting and kind of show themselves to be as like they're possibly going to be problematic. And, Cinta sort of focuses on the driver, like she's going to be a problem. Like she's going to leave early. There's going to be an issue with her. And no, it turns out to be the guy.
Well, is the girl, is that Rylance's daughter? Like the head Gorman front guy? I think that might have been his daughter. At least that's what I was interpreting from the previous episodes.
I thought the other gal was the gal who met with Andor was his daughter.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought too.
She's the brown hair girl, and the blonde hair girl. Spoiler: she ends up in a relationship with a different character later on. We'll get into that next time.
They said
this is the Star Wars hookup show.
The plan.
Yeah, it really is. And I mentioned that out of semi out of context, but you don't see, romanticness in Star Wars like you have in this show, in particular this episode. I don't remember anything like that. And it's just kissing, but still, it's, I don't know. Funny enough, I had less problems with the scene with Bix and the officer in the third episode of the series than I did with that in this episode. I very much get, I think, where you came from, Kathryn, on that, where it's I just didn't want that in Star Wars.
It wasn't needed. It just wasn't needed. Yeah. Now, a real romance relationship in Star Wars is awesome. Oh, it's not canon anymore. Darn it. No.
You still in the era, at least for a little bit.
We've got a lot of bad ones.
A lot of bad relationships out there.
Bad ones, yeah. Sorry, I know I kind of derailed us there a little bit, but yeah. So
you brought a blaster to you didn't follow the plan.
Yep, I didn't follow the plan. I brought a blaster to the knife fight. And I love how this plays out. It's so very tragic how this plays out, and it's so well done because the guy who comes up and gets nosy, we saw him back in 3 episodes ago or whatever, and or 2 episodes ago, and he is the guy who is really shouting for, hey, we need to figure out what's going on. We need to kick these Imperials off of Gorman. I'm going to make this hand gesture, which means something, obviously, because everybody gets up in arms. but he's the struggle between this guy and the guy who's in on what's going on is what causes the tragedy. And it's just very Shakespearean, at least in my opinion, like the good intentions and end up causing the tragedy.
That's what made me confused as to why the guy even pulled a blaster on him.
Right.
Don't you know that this guy is part of your cause?
Well, but the guy who showed up and was like blocking the way, like he's the guy that's going to get you caught because he's being loud and causing trouble. Like, whereas they're trying to be sneaky. So I think they were trying to they didn't want him to know because he's going to be like loud and obnoxious about it, and everybody's going to, he's not going to really keep much of a secret. So. Like if he knows,
I wish that's what it was, but as soon as I saw his face, it's like he's going to go help carry boxes. He's a big, strong guy who wants to help. Yeah.
Oh, but he wasn't part of the plan though, so he wants to be on the inner circle and know what's going on, but he wasn't even in on the plan, so obviously they know he's a risk. So at least that's kind of the way I'm interpreting it is. Like if you bring him in, he's probably going to get drunk and tell somebody. Somebody at the tavern, and then the Empire's going to know. I mean, they know anyway, but the Gormans don't know that. So.
They know that you know that they don't know, but you don't know that. Yeah, but yeah, one shot gets fired, and of course it goes home. Always a question mark about how blasters work and how they kill people and whether or not they really kill people, whatever. But either way, it gets Cinta. She goes down, and the guy the loudmouth ends up carrying her, solving the problem, right? Because they can't get Vel to move. Like, funny enough, Vel, the one that, if you can't follow orders and directions, then we need to walk away, is so stunned she's stuck there, and they're trying to pull her away. We need to go. And the guy picks her up, and Vel follows. And then we get that scene in the getaway car with the "Are you crying?" What did you guys think about that?
Oh, when Val goes off on that guy.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. It was just I don't know, just a rage. It was weird and just a bit much, you're gonna carry this with you forever thing, and yeah, I don't know. It wasn't nice, but she's not nice sometimes, most of the time. So.
I liked it from a character perspective, and Vel's grieving and rage, like you said, and she's like, this has to mean something, and you're going to take this and you're going to give it meaning for the rest of your life, and you're never going to forget, and so I think I liked kind of what she said, and if we don't see this character again, or he'll take this into whatever he does next. So, and I like to think. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I kind of like to think and we'll talk about this when we get to the end of the series, but in Rogue One, when Cassian Andor is saying we're murderers, assassins, spies, we've all done terrible things in the name of the rebellion, and the show has shown us what those things are, and and it's not just him, but it's this whole group of people that we don't know what we know what Cassian's done, a lot of what he's done from the show, but we don't know everything, and we don't know what a lot of these people have done. So I just like the, at least it's giving flavor and giving background to all these, or you can at least imagine their background of they've probably all done bad things, and they even say that they've all done bad things. And you can, if this guy was in that scene, he would be remembering that what happened to Cinta here. So I don't know. I like that from that's what kind of made me think of that, of Andor, remembering everything that he's done, everything he's had to do.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it, but it made sense, that's what Vel would do, and it does. I think it ends up playing out fine in the long run, as far as you can tell. We get to see this character again later, but not in depth. But it does ask kind of a question, how how do the fellow rebels treat each other when they lose? Because, and that, I think it's a quote that actually comes later in the series, but is also, I think, parroted earlier, but that's all they do. Rebels just lose. They lose and lose and lose until eventually they win. You look at Empire Strikes Back and Hoth, it was a loss. It was on the run. How do they deal with each other through the losses and just this sort of perpetual losing scenario? We don't see, we see a little bit of that in season 1 of Andor after the heist, and there's only the 3 of them or the 4 of them left. And, Vel gets accused of not wanting to go to the doctor to save the kid because, it's, well, if we lose him, but we don't have to go to the doctor, then we can go right to the storehouse and clear everything out. And then she takes him to the doctor, and what happens? Well, Andor kills Skeen. And so they drop down, and even another person dies as part of the heist. So it's interesting to see.
Killed everyone.
Yeah, that's right. And that was the other thing. Like, if Andor hadn't been there, Skeen would have killed Vel and the kid anyway. So it's just interesting to see how it works after action, after they fail. And it was a success, quote unquote. Obviously the Empire was watching, but Cinta bites it on that one. So but yeah, I think that brings us pretty close to the end. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about on the episode?
Oh wait, there is one. Somebody's got to know this for me. The gloves that they focused in on in Luthen's shop when Cassian went to confront him. Does anybody know what those gloves were? Why were they focused in on at that particular moment? They were like spiky clawed gloves on display.
Offhand, I don't know. There's a lot of other Easter eggs in there in that shop, but
I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in there. It's just interesting when they focus on one particular thing. I always wonder, it's like, you don't just focus in on it just for an Easter egg. I hope it had some deeper meaning. So I just was wondering, because, I like things like that when it's like, okay, there's got to be some connection to what's happening now. So I was just wondering if anyone knew about those gloves. Maybe somebody on Discord does. They can tell us.
It sounds like a Discord army. Determine what the gloves.
I was doing a quick Google, and I'm not seeing anything specific about the gloves, but yeah, that could be a whole episode of the Easter eggs in Luthen's shop on the all the artifacts. And let's see, glove spikes. Wikipedia is telling me maybe they're just called glove spikes, and they're not really anything in any specific. I don't know.
It's probably some deep dive in some comic book.
Yeah. Old Empire Sith artifacts, something like that.
Yeah.
Old Batum World tablets and Starkiller armor and all that.
How about you, Jeff? Any last thoughts?
I'd love for Thrawn to show up there. No, nothing here. Great episode. Yeah, no, like I was saying, I'd love to see Thrawn show up and go through that shop and talk to Luthen about all the things before he identifies him as a spy, because he's Thrawn and can do that. But yeah, no, nothing else here, I don't think.
Yeah, so I think the last little bit was the joke between Luthen and Clea as they're leaving. We should have killed Krennic while we were up there. And they laugh, right? And I think it's a showcase of their relationship, because I think they've been operating separately for a long time, and how poorly that's gone, what we see in the last episode. And, this was a team op, right? They had to go in there and get that And, she ends up bleeding to get that thing. And I don't know if any of you have ever done that in a mechanical way and had to, I've done that. Where I had something, it cut through my gloves, but I was determined. It was coming off.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I've bled, but I've definitely banged myself up doing some, home repairs or car repairs or something.
Yeah. Well, good deal. I think that's it for this episode of The Secrets of Star Wars. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons, including Matt and Father Eric T., Elizabeth E., Kathy L., Linda N., and Janet M. Their generous donations help us to create The Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest, and you can join them at sqpn.com/give. And now we'd like to hear from you, our listeners. What are your favorite Andor Season 2, Episode 6? What are festive evening moments? You can let us know by sending us an email at starwars@sqpn.com, on our social media pages, or by leaving a comment on our channel on the StarQuest Discord server, which you can find at sqpn.com/discord. And until next time, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
Pat, it has been a festive evening indeed.
And Kathryn Laffrey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Pat. All we need is a couple of those cocktails.
Yeah.
Sagrona
Tima. And once again, I'm Patrick Mason. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy. The Catholics of Oz. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Oz.